Previously, the group climbed back into the small boat they'd commandeered, and Taria used Detect Magic to look at the rewards they'd gotten from the cache. The stopwatch and ship in a bottle gave off transmutation magic, while the books seemed to be giving off clerical or holy magic of some type. The group tested several things with the ship in a bottle before they realized that it needed to be given a name. It was almost as if some omnipotent being knew that they had to be forced to make a decision or the ship would never be named. A few random names were called out before Sean suggested calling it Karma. Nobody hated that name, so they decided to go with it since they wanted to get moving sooner rather than later. As soon as Taria uncorked the bottle and said Karma, mist poured out of it and formed into a full-size brigantine. Most of the group climbed aboard to explore their new ship, although Talk stayed behind on the dinghy for the time being. Once they were done exploring and were ready to set out, Talk asked if the group would mind if he kept the smaller boat. He thought it was time for their paths to go in different directions. His home was behind them, and with everything that had happened recently, there was bound to be a power vacuum. Everyone in power in various ways had been removed, save for perhaps Aki, who might be one of the most powerful people left in the swamp. The group said their goodbyes and told him they'd try to help him in the future if he needed it. As he paddled away, everyone agreed that he was very odd. Well, almost everyone. Keelan thought he was the first person he'd met on the surface who actually made sense, which says all there is to say. Sean took the wheel at first, while Keelan focused on navigation. Various rooms were claimed by different people for sleeping and or crafting purposes. It started getting dark before too long, and Sean took the first watch while Taria took the wheel. Towards the end of the watch, Sean saw a dark form in the water ahead of them. She called out to Taria, but Taria wasn't able to turn the ship fast enough to avoid it. The dark form turned out to be a mass of ship-eating plants that the group had to fight off, draining their magical capabilities even more than they already were from the cache. Keelan took second watch with Tornak on the wheel, and he noticed the ship following them from a distance. When it realized the group had noticed it, the other ship put up Mayday flags. The group was hesitant, as the ship had clearly been there for a while and was keeping pace with them. But upon realizing the other ship had speeded up and was quickly gaining on them, they decided to send Wisp over with a blank piece of paper so the other ship could provide more details. The response was written in ancient runic, and Keelan immediately felt the pendant he'd gotten from the cult of Thalakros react to its presence. They were tempted not to read it, but with the other ship fast gaining on them and most of them out of magic, Sean said she'd take a look since she was the only one who could read it. It essentially said to wait, as they were newly freed, and the word Thalakros was clearly visible in the ruins. Sean didn't get the feeling that it was meant as a threat, although it might still be one. Also, there may have been wisdom saving throws involved, but nobody realized that in character, so it's fine. Since escaping wasn't an option, the group decided to try to talk their way out of it. Taria and Oz slipped below decks while the three more charismatic members of the group, plus Keelan, who was bonded to the pendant even if charisma wasn't his strength by a long shot, stayed up there to talk. As the other ship arrived, a single hooded figure walked out onto the deck. They started to speak in deep speech, which only Tornak understood. Then, as the group watched, Tornak suddenly rose up in the air and electrical energy started crackling around him. And that is where we left off, and we'll be picking up next time for an in-person weekend.